Hello everyone. Today I'll begin my lecture in continuation with the values and principle of social values, social policy. I had been discussing about two, 3 points related to the principles and values like your subsidiarity, solidarity, and personal responsibility. Today I'll continue talking about social self-government, then regulatory conformity, equity, fairness, and so on and so forth. So, not wasting much time, I would like to begin with the social self government. If we talk about the social self government, self government means that if I talk in a perspective of an individual, that is making own decisions on issues pertaining to local matters or needs, handling the administrative arrangements for anything that would concern me without depending upon the central authority whenever possible. So it's like without any dependence, it is my responsibility to make decisions and handling the administrative arrangements which would concern the overall well-being of an individual or the person concerned. So together, this together with the classical principles of taking personal responsibility and collectivity on issues of collective action and joint decision making make up the requirements for the operation of social life. In the context of social action and joint decision, in the context of social realities, social self government means that in the framework of legally instituted obligations of the society as well as the state for covering material needs, and at the same time the practice of personal responsibility, those obligations should be fulfilled by adhering to subsidiarity and solidarity behavior. So the hierarchy of actions from the lower to the higher administrative levels should be followed, while at the same time utilizing collectivity and as well as assistance. So all parties involved at the various levels would operate not only within the boundaries of competence they have or is awarded to them, but also the relationship are bound by the cooperation and togetherness. So therefore, in accordance with self-government, social self-government, the objectives and obligations of social policy should not remain centralized solely at the state level, but smaller decentralized social structures of local government may just as well undertake part of them. So they ensure the efficient, execution of implementation measures of social policy at the local level, and at the same time act as participants and social partners contributing to the decongestion of central structures and services. The operation of social self-government, it enables addressing social risks in a way and by means in close proximity to the citizens. As casual factors are more, as casual factors are more easily identifiable by the people who themselves experience a difficult situation, the required actions and the availability of the necessary resources are easier to coordinate by in actions, thereby minimizing response times. So for in a way you can say that political decisions and other interventions measures are acted political decisions and the other interventions measures are acted upon faster in comparison to those at higher levels, since the encumbrance of bureaucracy is avoided, but also because they are closer to people's expectations and the particular and the peculiarities of each region. So those are field actions which take place in the context of daily life and vary in forms, needs assessment and taking the required action, interventions in the situation of crisis, coordination interventions, or any other developmental initiatives taken up. So the existence of powerful self-government entities at all level, whether individuals, group, collectivities with specific duties and responsibilities, results in the mobilization of forces by these entities, whether at local or state level, for better development, coordination, planning, as well, and eventually implementation of policies and social policy programs. So state guidelines on the issue of social policy become more efficient when local structure and local government mechanisms are involved. They limit potential hindrances and difficulties due to fewer bureaucratic procedure and ensure better quality in the services they provide. Now, regulatory conformity. Regulatory conformity is the behavior a social group expects from an individual belonging to it. Robert Merton's conformity is one of the five major mode of adaptation to one's social environment. The other four are innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. So, in conformity, the individual accepts the culturally defined goals as well as the socially defined means that are made available to him in order to achieve them. In the post-industrial society of digital information, conformity is structured upon different subsystems with which affect the ultimate forms it takes and made apparent by the descriptive elements of social reality. So, as a capital model, has prevailed in the organization of production and also in the operation of the free market economy, the economic system now enjoys a higher value in people's mind compared to other subsystems, but at the individual and general social level. So, consequently, it is not by the chance that the pursuit of amassing material goods and leading a selfish way of life have prevailed in regulating people's lives instead of the moral principles or rules of behavior. Those elements affect negatively not only on personal behavior but function even more as models of consumerism in today's society by defining to a significant extent the way its members operate and their orientation. The shift towards well-being and welfare by any means, even consciously at the expense of other people, have disrupted social justice and are testing social cohesion through the materialistic polarization among the social strata. So, in the new civilization of seizing and of provocative consumption, the person loses every vision of his future and is transformed into a predatory beast of the present. So, distant from any notion of love for his neighborhood or concern for the common good. So, on the other hand, and as the century long history of human coexistence has proven, the creation of social order, it is based on the constant side by side cooperation of all subsystems and values, whether material or immaterial. So, efficient cooperation and coordination of both the economic and social aspects are prerequisites, especially for the operation of social policy, but also is the importance attached to the value system as a regulator of human and social relationships through through relations of interdependence. It is a delicate relationship of balanced allocation of duties, responsibilities, priorities, coordination, and sequence, which constitutes the regulatory factor in regard to the expression of different forms of social order and social justice that countries choose to follow. The stability of social order, is the outcome of the perpetual regulation from a philosophical point of view, a balance in order not to jeopardize its overall ability to function due to the internal inequalities and even distribution of its an uneven distribution of its continuing parts. So, the perception of the last decades have brought about a disturbance in the balance of social reality, and even more so in social relationships. So, society as well as human and social relationships today are determined by the economic reality and are closely influenced by it and are constantly, and directly dependent on its course and requirements. So social policies presented on as so it can be said that social policy is presented as dependent on economic policies, since that it's where the necessary resource for its existence come from, while overlooking the solidarity correlation and co-subsidiarity. However, both dimension, that is economic and social aspects, matter and values are subsystems of social order, and logically they should be in the same plane as being of equal value in the context of an complementing synergy. So it is a duty of the state to intervene so that the subsystems of society are able to fulfill the duties that warrant their existence in order for a harmonious and a conflict-free coexistence among the subjects of society to be possible. Then is equity and fairness. When you talk about equity and fairness, social policy aims to ensure that all individuals, they have equal access to resources and opportunities regardless of their background or circumstances. Policies, particularly social policies, they should be designed in such a manner that it would reduce any kind of disparities, try to promote social inclusion, social cohesion, ensuring the vulnerable and the marginalized group receive the maximum benefit and adequate support. In fact, equity and fairness, it tries to promote inclusion and helps disparities among various different social groups involved. Fairness also involves impartial treatment in process and decision, ensuring that the policies are implemented without any biasness or without any prejudices. So equality, it focuses on outcomes. Fairness emphasizes the integrity of the implementation, that how fair a policy has been implemented and how far or what is the extent of a particular policy, which it enhances trust in the social system and ensures that policies are perceived are just and legitimate. For example, the employment practices, fair hiring practices and anti-discrimination measures should be taken up when people are employed at the same level. Then welfare programs are initiated, which efforts are being made to ensure that unbiased distribution of benefits and there is no income or limited income disparities, or the resources are equally adequately being distributed among the most marginalized or weaker section of the population. Then there are certain reservation policies, affirmative action measures in education and employment for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes had to be taken into consideration. And there is a Right to Education Act 2009, which ensures free and compulsory education irrespective of the caste, creed, religion, background, and which is a state as well as a center's responsibility to look into that every child gets educated up till the age of 14 years. Then you have social justice. The social policy is equally rooted in the belief that all members of society should be treated justly and with dignity, and the social inequalities should be addressed. So policies should aim to correct social injustices by redistributing resources, by protecting the rights and promoting fairness in social and economic opportunities. Justice involves ensurance that resources and opportunities are distributed fairly and that individuals are treated equitably. Social justice also involves revealing injustice and an action in building a more inclusive and equitable society. Therefore, any disparities in terms of health, income, education that stem from social policies will be viewed through a social justice lens. And according, access to the social determinants of health will be examined through the identification of structural barriers which limit individuals, families, and communities from thriving, such as racism, heterosexism, ableism, sexism, cisgenders, ageism, and classicism. Building relationship through meaningful consultation with organizations and agencies representing communities that have been historically marginalized will be pursued to ensure that social needs are met in culturally and respectful manner. So if you talk about certain examples of criminal justice reform, which efforts are being made to address sentencing disparities and improve the fairness of the legal system, then providing legal aid assistance to the economically avoid disadvantage. There are usually the two types of justice, that is the distributive justice and procedural justice. If you talk about distributive justice, that is a fair allocation of resources and benefits to the people. So the benefits, whatever resources are generated in the country, or whatever resources are available, it should be equally distributed. It should be, the treatment should be fair. So the principle of equity and fairness also comes when you talk about distribution of resources and benefits and privileges. And secondly, procedural justice, that is fairness is in the process that lead to decisions and outcomes. So when you talk about procedural, whatever the outcome of a particular action, under the eyes of law, everyone is same, and nobody should be treated otherwise when it comes to punishment, or when it comes to any kind of sentence, or when it comes to being treated equally under law. So whatever the procedure for any particular crime which has been committed, or for any kind of activities, so what the entire process should be fair, it should be transparent, should be a sense of responsibility and accountability related to you, it, so that would lead to a proper fair decisions and the outcome too. If you talk about human dignity and respect, every individual is entitled to live a dignified life, which should be treated with respect, regardless of their socioeconomic status. And policies should protect and should enhance human dignity, ensuring that all people, they have the accessibility to the basic necessities of life, such as healthcare, education, and housing. Each individual has a right to self-fulfillment, to the extent that the right does not encroach on the right of others. To that end, social policy measures should intrude as little as possible on the choices which individuals make to live in the manner they so choose. So commitment to upholding the values of self-determination and respect are utmost important while talking about making policies. Then universality. Individuals, families, and communities are entitled to have this universal access to social programs and services. Universality, with an awareness of equitable treatment, affirms that historically oppressed groups are enabled to receive social services with the necessary support in place. Such an approach recognizes the fact that recognizes the structural reality of marginalization and discrimination in social system, and it works toward limiting its impact. Social policies should identify social inequalities and address barriers through the recognition of individual circumstances and needs. So recognition of the need of affirmation action and targeting of some clients to minimize social exclusion. Local knowledges should also be embraced and integrated to respect the individual differences of clients. Universalism is the principle that certain basic services and rights should be available to everyone, not just specific groups. So social policies should aim for universal coverage, by providing services like healthcare, education, social security, social insurance. So there is an element of inclusivity, and it means that no one is excluded. Inclusiveness ensures that all individuals and groups, especially those traditionally marginalized, are included in the benefits of social policies. Policies should be designed actively to include and support underrepresented and vulnerable populations, ensuring that the needs and voices are considered in the policy making process. When you talk about inclusivity or inclusiveness, it has been said that everyone in the development of the nation, when everyone is included in the development process to bring about a change in the present condition, in the present situations, and that inclusivity is irrespective of which marginalized group or caste or religion it would be there. So inclusivity also means that given equal opportunity, they have the same kind of resources, so they are being fairly treated in matters related to welfare schemes and programs. Whenever policies are being made, there the marginalized or the vulnerable population who who needs the adequate attention, their needs and their expectations, their aspirations are kept in priority while specifically making or exclusively making policies of them. So when we talk about inclusiveness or inclusivity, it is the social inclusions which would relate, or which it talks about social inclusions and trying to negate or eliminate social exclusion. Sustainability, when you look into the sustainability part of it, sustainability involves creating policies that not only addresses current needs, but it also focuses on the future generations in order to meet their own needs. So social policies should be designed in such a manner that it should be financially and socially more viable, more sustainable for a longer period of time, avoiding short-term fixes that may create future problems. So it is very important to see that when you try to bring a policy, it should have a long term impact and effects. When we do the implementation of a policy, 2 3 aspects should be discussed in length and breadth. That is, what is the extent of the policy, what would be the predictions in terms of the impact it is will create, not only on the present population but also in the coming generation. Is it more effective and more impactful, and of course there is an element of flexibility when you make policies, but they cannot be rigid, because if you're talking about sustainability and sustainable outcomes, it means any new items or any new agenda could be integrated in the present policy in order to make it more inclusive and more holistic in its approach. Empowerment. When you talk about empowerment, it also adds to the values and principles of social policy, because it enables individuals and communities to take control of their own lives and make decisions that affect their well-being. If you talk about empowerment, it is a multi-level, or I would say multicultural process, or multi-dimensional process of social change and social tries to bring about social change in the lives of those who those who are being empowered or emancipated. It is like giving them choices to make decisions, to make them self-sufficient and self-reliant, and this empowerment is like taking control of their destiny, making choices on their own. So policies should be made in such a manner that the individuals and communities, with the proper tools, resources and opportunities, can improve their own circumstances, their conditions, fostering self-reliance and participation in the society. For that matter, examples would be like sustainable livelihood opportunities now are being given to a larger number of people. Then self-help groups, microfinance, credit facilities are there, which would not only empower them economically, financially, but it also helps to raise the social standards, the political representations, their choices, the decision making process. So policies should be made in order to empower the communities, to give them some authority, some power to control their own lives. Then relational interconnectedness and interdependence. Now, social policy measures also consider, or rather it should consider, the interdependence between people and consider how economic conditions have the potential to improve or impede societal outcomes. So societal health and well-being are typically better in countries where there is a smaller income gap between the rich and the poor, with the reverse also being true. However, the reality that economic opportunities influences living conditions, and the social determinants of health should be taken into consideration when reviewing social policies. And I've earlier also, while discussing about economic, social and public policy relationship and interconnections, it has been very much, it was quite evident that economic policies, they may work independently on their own because they regulate, they strengthen the economic growth, whereas social policies are more dependent on the economic system or the economic improvement of any countries. So if there is more burden on the individuals or on the governance, then there would be a cutoff in the, or rather there would be be cut in the social, social expenditure would be curbed if the economy is not strengthened. So social workers or professionals from any other disciplines, they are often tasked with supporting clients in necessitating in assessing income supplements and government assistance, and extending this support would involve identifying identifying economic inequalities that are embedded in social policies, and advocating for change and progress such as universal basic income. Rights are equally important, and they are rules. They can protect the liberties or impose duties on the people. There are certain moral rights which are backed by moral claim, and there are legal rights which are backed by legal sanction. So there is a moral right as well as legal right. Citizenship is also a right which bestows or which gives the individual the right to vote, the right to choose its member, the right to choose its leaders. So rights are important because it gives status to the individual to which country he or she belongs, and rights are associated with freedom. When you talk about the fundamental rights which are enshrined in the constitution, and these are enforceable rights. These fundamental rights are justiciable rights. They cannot be they can be challenged, and the violation of any of these fundamental rights can easily be taken up to the court. Even the rights and entitlements or the directive principles of state policies also give certain rights and liberties and freedom to the people, so that the state in fact the state becomes obligatory, or the state shall be obliged to provide these important rights which constitutionally protects and safeguard the individual from the broader aspects of which protects the individual, which helps the individual to live in a harmonious relationship, to have a peaceful coexistence. So these rights which gives them the individual the power to vote, to live freely in a country, to enjoy the benefits of the country, to gain accessibility to the healthcare, education and housing system, whatever the government has created for the benefit or for the welfare of the individual. These rights actually help the individual to have accessibility to these opportunities. Then freedom involves allowing individuals to make choices and pursue their goals without undue interference. There are individual freedom, there are political freedom. When you talk about individual freedom, there is a political personal autonomy and self-determination. The individual, by the virtue of being an individual, has his own liberties, has his own freedom and his own choices which he or she can make as an adult. Whereas political freedom, the right to participate in the political process and express opinions, to voice his opinions, to have a representation in the political structure, in the governance. So there is a political freedom also when you have been given the expression to express any dissatisfaction or any kind of conflicting viewpoints in a more amicable manner, in a peaceful manner, to express your choices and your opinions. Then there are certain support group. The importance of such freedom is that there are certain personal developments and the democratic participation of the people in the process of elections and during any general elections. So like civil liberties, if I talk about the freedom, if I give an example related to freedom, it would be protection from freedom of speech, religion and assembly. If you talk about the civil liberties, then there is also economic freedom, that is policies that promote entrepreneurship and property rights amongst the people. Responsiveness emphasizes the need for social policies to be flexible and adaptable to the changing needs of the society. Policies should be designed in order to promote or respond to new social challenges and emerging needs, ensuring that they remain relevant and effective in addressing societal issues. Accountability and transparency. If you talk about accountability and transparencies, these are crucial for ensuring that that social policies are implemented fairly and that policy makers are answerable to the public. So social policies should be developed and executed in an open, transparent manner with mechanism in place for holding policymakers and institutions accountable for their actions. Then participation in democracy. So participation in democracy emphasizes the importance of involving citizens in the policy making process. Social policies should encourage and facilitate active participation from all segments of society, ensuring that policies reflect the diverse needs and preferences of the population. So the values, so these values and principles, they guide the development and implementation of social policies, thus aiming to create a more equitable, just and inclusive society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. These values and principles, they serve as the ethical and practical foundation for creating policies that aim to improve the quality of life of all the members. And by adhering to these values and principles, the policymakers can design and implement social policies that are fair, inclusive, and sustainable. Uh, if I further talk about, in addition to the existing social policy principles, the development committee of the World Bank and IMF requested in October 1998 that the World Bank should work with the United Nations, the fund, and other partners to develop general principles of good practice in structural and social policies. And these are the five important points. First, achieving universal access to basic social services. Now, when you talk about accessibility to basic social services, it includes accessibility to quality education, to quality basic education, healthcare, reproductive health, sanitation, and safe drinking water. The international development targets included that they are recognized setting up of objectives which would be applying to the national and international community as a whole. So income and employment are recognized as central social concerns in the bank's paper. In fact, international declaration have focused especially on the provision of full employment and protection of core labor standards, which included the elimination of all forms of forced or compulsory labor, harmful child labor, discrimination with respect to employment and occupation, and providing support system for freedom of associations and right to collective bargaining. So there has to be, in fact, that most people working in the developing world, working in the outside in outside formal sector or unorganized sector, in self-employed, based on informal forms of labor, the overall pattern of growth and public actions should be more in favor of sustainable development, and it should not only look after or look into those who are in the formal sector, but also those who are in the unorganized sector. Then enabling all men and women to attain secure, sustainable livelihoods and decent working conditions. It is very important that sustainable livelihood opportunities should be created, decent working conditions should be created, so that people they have fair share. There shouldn't be any form of discriminatory practices. Employment opportunities should be given to them, decent working conditions and hours should be regulated. Labor laws and labor specific policies should be created for a viable sustainable opportunity. Then promoting systems of social protection. A robust system of social protection is seen or considered as a central element in public and social policies, which would provide safeguard against shocks, especially to those who are at risk of irreversible declines in their human, social or physical assets. So the challenge for implementation is outlined, and that it's like it is the formal system of social protections, it is like it's relying on the family or community based mechanism. So public policies and institutions, they need to strengthen their social provisions for the vulnerable in such a manner that it should be consistent with the country's level of development, sustainable and supportive of informal mechanisms. So a safety net should not foster permanent dependency efficiency, but at the same time it should strengthen the local livelihood systems. And then fostering social integration. The fostering social integration, it intended to bring about, rather it focuses on creating a strong, ties, unifying. There's a lot of unity, and there is this international declaration also has been created to foster societies that are safe, stable, and just. It promotes respect for diversity, achieves equity between women and men, foster tolerance and protect human rights. It also enhances the participation of all groups of people in the economic societies and natural environments, including the poor, vulnerable, and the disadvantaged. So appropriate policies for the implementation in this field are seen as highly important, and it should, however, be made in such a manner that there is at least, there is a commitment on the part of the government, and these policies should foster effective institutions in civil societies. So that is all about my presentation, or that was all today. That was all about the lecture regard to the principles and values of social policies. Next, I will take up the sources of social policy in the next lecture. Thank you.